for ZESCO. Licenses. Because of the query, Chair, the Council acknowledges the Auditor General's observation and wishes to report that the negative variance of 1 million was on account of having prepared an unrealistic budget. The Council wishes to report that it has prepared a more consultative budget in 2023 based on complete and updated business databases. Remedial measure. As above, Chair, we have prepared a more realistic and consultative budget in 2023 based on an updated database. On levies, we acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that the cited positive variance of 84 was due to enforcement, 84,874 was due to enforcement by the Revenue Task Force and compliance by some business community. Action taken, Chair. The Council wishes to report that the task force has continued to sensitize the business community to settle their bills for required municipal services. As a remedial measure, we will continue engaging the business community on the importance of paying levies. On permits, we acknowledge the Auditor General's observation, Chair, and wish to report that the negative variance of 356 was on account of an unrealistic budget, and as an action, we have prepared a more consultative budget in 2023 based on complete and updated business databases. On commercial ventures, Chair, the Council acknowledges the observation of the Auditor General and wishes to report that the negative variance of 700,000 was in the anticipation of revenue after completing the renovation of Choma Executive Lodge. The action taken, Chair, the lodge was officially opened in July 2022, and the collection was 453 as at 31st December 2022. Further, the Council is opening the restaurant at the new bus station to enhance our revenue, and all the equipment has been purchased for the same. As a remedial measure, the Council will continue to venture into more income-generating ventures, Chair, to broaden our revenue base. On other receipts, we acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that the cited negative variance of 130 was on account of having not been awarded the expected contract on wayleaf clearing by ZESCO Limited. And as earlier reported, on the action taken, we have prepared a more realistic and consultative budget in 2023 by excluding the budget for wayleaf. We will continue as a remedial measure to engaging ZESCO Limited for a possible award of a contract in future to enhance our local revenue. Local Government Equalization Fund. The Council acknowledges the observation of the Auditor General and wishes to report that the cited negative variance of 2 million was on account of deductions at source for union dues, audit fees, and insurance for the fire tender, among others. The Council wishes to report that it will continue engaging our parent ministry for possible increment, as the Equalization Fund is insufficient as it is for wages and other statutory obligations on a monthly basis. On CDF, Council acknowledges observation of the Auditor General and wishes to report that the positive variance of 6,359 Chair was on account of interest earned on the CDF accounts. The Council wishes to report that it has transferred all interest earned on the CDF main account as directed by the Ministry. As a remedial measure, we shall continue to abide by the new CDF guidelines, Chair. On other grants, we acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that the negative variance of 320 was on account of having not received funding for the grant in lieu of rates as we had budgeted. The Council wishes to report that it has since reduced the 2023 budget on other grants and is engaging the Ministry for consideration. As a remedial measure, we shall continue engaging our ministry for possible funding on these grants. On operational matters, Chair, failure to regulate street vending. The cause of the query, Chair, we wish to acknowledge the observations of the Auditor General on the traders along the main road, which is due to non-compliance by the traders. The Council management wishes to report that we have put the following interventions. Street traders are regularly being removed from the roads, and trading spaces at the green market have been identified for their relocation. We have also continued with street patrols and civic leaders' engagement. As a remedial measure, we shall continue to periodically engage traders along the main road to trade in designated places of trading to avoid any risk. On environmental management, Chair, management of the solid waste at Harmony dump site. The cause of the query. The Council acknowledges the observation of the Auditor General and wishes to report that the access to the dump site passes through individual farmlands for settlers, and as a result, there were a number of lengthy negotiations with farmers to secure access. The action taken, Chair, we wish to report that the following actions were undertaken. Access to the site was secured following successful engagements. The area is planned to commence constructions. The Council has written to the Treasury through the Ministry of Local Government to utilize the unspent funds in the 2022 budget under dump site capital budget line to start fencing the dump site. Construction of the wall fence is expected to be completed by the end of this quarter, Chair, once authority is granted to utilize funds. End of second quarter, once authority is granted to utilize funds. The Council, as a remedial measure, the Council shall ensure that the dump site areas are protected and guarded as per ZEMA guidelines. On accounting irregularities, Chair, missing receipt books because of the query. Management acknowledges the auditor's observation and wish to state that failure to submit the receipts at the time of audit was on account of receipt books not having been collected from the revenue collectors. The action taken, management wishes to report that the matter of two receipt books, number 571961 to 572000 and 4593601 to 4594000 has been escalated to the investigative wing for investigation and possible collection. The revenue agency contract was terminated for both agents, namely Hitler Mbambo and Grant Hantuba. No receipt books are currently being issued before returning the ones obtained earlier. As a remedial measure, Chair, the Council has automated the system, and receipts from the Ministry of Finance are used as control slips and are kept in the strong room for safety keeping under the custody of the accountancy section. The other query is on delayed banking, Chair. The cause of the query, we acknowledge the Auditor General's observation, Chair, and wish to report that the delayed banking was as a result of non-availability of banking agencies' services in some of our remote revenue points. The action taken. We wish to report that we have opened an account with Zanaco Bank, which has agency services even in remote areas for depositing by revenue collectors in remote revenue collection points. Management is further exploring the possibility of using Kazang platform or other mobile platforms for use by revenue collectors. As a remedial measure, we have put up controls by ensuring that revenue collectors are depositing money as required. Unaccounted for revenue meat inspection. The cause of the query, Chair. Management acknowledges the auditor's observation and wish to report that the variance of 33,728 was on account of failure to reconcile inspection records with the abattoir owners. The action taken, The inspection sheet is now signed by abattoir owners to confirm the number of inspections on bovine, caprine, and porcine. Council health inspectors submit the abattoir inspection sheet to Finance Department on weekly basis for invoicing on monthly basis. As a remedial measure chair, the Council has introduced the abattoir daily slaughter inspection sheet to be submitted to Finance for invoicing to the 4 abattoirs that we currently have in the district. Failure to collect revenue, leased property, the cause of the query. The Council acknowledges the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that rental charges were not collected at the time of audit on account of the following. Firstly, some tenants had vacated from the Council properties without notifying the Council in line with the tenancy agreement. Secondly, the Council was waiting for the response from the tenant owing, Chair, there is a correction there. The figure should be 155,932 through the KBF and partners before the matter is escalated to the courts of law. The action taken, management has undertaken the following. We have so far collected 48,978 out of 280, 141, leaving a balance of 231. Demand notices to clear the outstanding 75,231 have been served to clients, and failure to pay, the matter will be escalated to court. And we are waiting from the response from the tenant owing 155,932 through their lawyers before the matter goes to court. As a remedial measure, Chair, we will do monthly reminders to the clients to avoid accruing more debt on leased properties. On billboards, the cause of the query, Chair, we acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that billboard fees were not collected at the time of audit for the following reasons. Firstly, from the total amount captured and uncollected, about 135,906 are billboards belonging to government institutions. The action taken, Chair, 136,566 was collected out of 1,223,079, leaving a balance of 1,086,513. The Council has issued invoices for the outstanding balance of 950, 607, and is making follow-ups. As a remedial measure, Chair, the Council will ensure that a clean database for billboards is maintained to make it easy to collect the amount owed and remove all billboards for non-compliant clients. Management of payroll and other staff-related matters, Chair. Failure to fill vacant positions because of the query. We do acknowledge the observations by Auditor General and wish to report that for positions of Chief Building Inspector, Senior Quantity Surveyor, Station Fire Officer positions are not for municipality councils in line with the 2012 harmonization of salaries and conditions of service. I must point out, Chair, here that the auditors, when they visited, they were availed the wrong structure. They were given the structure for a city. Therefore, positions are filled based on levels of demand for the services and ability by the local authority to meet staff obligations from locally generated resources. Action taken, we wish to report that key positions have since been filled by the Local Government Service Commission. Remedial measures, we will continue engaging the Local Government Service Commission on critical vacant positions periodically through our quarterly staff reports, returns. Overemployment of staff, the cause of the query, Chair. We acknowledge the concern raised by the Auditor General and wish to report that the overemployment was as a result of staff coming in on transfers. Action taken, Chair. Excess staff have been recommended to the Local Government Service Commission for transfers. That is from police section, from planning, from IT section, from procurement section, and from revenue collection section. One assistant procurement officer has since been transferred to another local authority by the Commission, and one revenue collector has since been redesignated and transferred to another local authority. The Council has engaged the Local Government Service Commission for the remaining staff to be transferred. On remedial measures, Chair, we will continue submitting updated staff returns to the Local Government Service Commission on critical vacant positions for Division 1 and 2. And the Local Government Service Commission has successfully formed a Human Resource Management Committee who has been delegated to handle staff-related matters for lower divisions. Employment of casual workers. Cause of the query, Chair. Management acknowledges the auditor's observation and wish to report that the engaged 32 casual employees for jobs is on account of the following: that we had inadequate manpower to key areas such as the bus stations and the markets. Action taken: the Council has followed the course circular number MLG 521/6, which the Ministry has authorized councils to engage officers on oral contracts till authority is granted for pensionable establishment. As a remedial measure, Chair, we will continue conducting staff audit for Division 4 for possible alignment to garbage collection, sanitary and street cleaning. Irregular payment of overtime allowance, Chair. Management acknowledges, as a cause of the query, management acknowledges the observation by Auditor General and wish to report that the payment was irregularly paid to Division 1 staff. The action taken: the recovery has been effected in the February 2023 payroll for all the officers who were erroneously paid, and the Council is not paying overtime to officers in Division 1. As a remedial measure, we shall ensure that we follow the conditions of service. Irregular payment of a salary to a convicted officer. We acknowledge the observations by the Auditor General and wish to report that the officer had appealed to the High Court and hence was maintained on the payroll. Action taken: the officer is no longer on the payroll and the recommendation letter for dismissal was submitted to the Local Government Service Commission. As a remedial measure, we shall ensure that any similar matter will be expedited as quickly as possible. Failure to confirm officers. The cause of the query, Chair. Management acknowledges the auditor's observations on staff that were not confirmed in positions of acting on account that the Council had not received confirmation letters for the affected staff. Action taken: 5 out of the 11 officers have since been confirmed, Chair. These include the Senior Evaluation Officer, the Accounts Officer, the Chief Committee Clerk, Senior Human Resource Officer, and the Systems Analyst. As a remedial measure, we are consistently engaging the Local Government Service Commission to ensure that the remaining officers are confirmed. Failure to ensure fire officers. Cause of the query: management acknowledges the auditor's observation that fire officers are not insured and wish to report that the Council adheres to the Fire Services Conditions of Service on fire officers. Action taken: fire tender is insured comprehensively, which covers all fire officers undertaking operations using this equipment. Further, the officers are paid risk allowance in line with their conditions of service. As a remedial measure, we will ensure that the fire tender is comprehensively insured every time it's operating. Procurement of goods and services, unauthorized expenditure. Cause of the query: Council acknowledges the observation of the auditor and wishes to report that the cited unauthorized expenditure amounting to 31,850 is on account of the following. The Council requested for a needs assessment for 5 days to set up a local area network in order for Choma Council to connect to the government-wide area network under Phase 2 project. Cabinet had approved for 5 days for the needs assessment and installation. After the needs assessment report, the officers recommended to do the installation for 15 days with an additional officer. Action taken. The local authority sought for 15 days from the secretary to the cabinet for the officers who were on the ground. As a remedial measure, the council will ensure that all core circulars are followed accordingly. Management of stores, unauthorized fuel drawings. Because of the query, Chair, the council acknowledges the observation of the Auditor General and wishes to report that the fuel costing 8,225 involving 17 transactions was drawn by motor vehicles not appearing on the council's fleet. Please. On account that...
Can you repeat that?
The council acknowledges the observation of the Auditor General and wishes to report that the fuel costing 8,225 involving 17 transactions was irregularly drawn by motor vehicles not appearing on the council's fleet, on account that, firstly, the council used the Ministry of Agriculture vehicle with registration number ABM 7591 for distribution of seeds and fertilizer under the Squeaker project due to inadequate vehicles. Secondly, the council used the ECZ vehicle with registration number ABZ 4012 to do the inspection of polling stations at the time funding delayed. Thirdly, registration number AAL 1631 is supposed to be 1631, Chair, was used by the PLOGO for CDF monitoring in Imbabala and Choma central constituencies. Registration number BAC 2519 is supposed to be captured as BAK 2519, and this is a council vehicle for inspection under the Department of Public Health. Registration number BAE 709 is a Njase Girls Secondary School bus which used to ferry councillors for a site visit within Choma district. Registration number ZP 2115 is a Zambia State Police vehicle used to inspect public nuisance of shabins, nightclubs and bars for noise pollution and non-compliance with the Public Health Act. Action taken. At the time of audit, the officer who was handling fuel requisitions was out of station. However, the letters of authority and vehicle justification is available for verification. The council has since budgeted for procurement of a bus under 2023 expenditure estimates. As a remedial measure, Chair, we shall ensure that stores requisitions, fuel coupons and disposal details are properly filed and accounted for. Management of assets, failure to claim insurance. Cause of the query, we acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General, Chair, and wish to report that the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development is handling the matter with Zambia State Insurance Corporation regarding the fire tender. Action taken. The claim was submitted to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and the claim has been escalated to Zambia State Insurance Corporation. The fire tender driver was charged for dangerous driving. Remedial measures. The council will continue engaging our ministry on the repair of the fire tender. Failure to claim insurance. Cause of the query, Chair, we acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that the failure to claim is on the account that Meanwood General Insurance has failed to reconcile the account for the said vehicle of how much insurance is supposed to be paid before the accident occurred. Action taken. The council has engaged Meanwood General Insurance to repair the insured vehicle. Remedial measures: all vehicles are now insured under Zambia State Insurance and have their own insurance claim value. Management of Local Government Equalization Fund, misapplication of equalization funds. Cause of the query: we acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that the untransferred funds were used to pay salaries and other administrative expenses. As an action taken, we have completed the land audit exercise, and funds raised from the sale of plots will be transferred to the capital project account as repayment. Remedial measures: the council is transferring 20% of the LGEF to capital project account. Failure to reimburse borrowed funds: council acknowledges the observation of the Auditor General on the borrowed funds for KFW projects for expenses. Action taken: management has reimbursed 500,000 to the GOPA Infra GMB escrow ABSA bank account as at December 2022, and the balance of 600,127.88 will be reimbursed from the funds raised from the sale of plots. As a remedial measure, we are no longer borrowing from project accounts. Questionable payment: construction of offense and guard room at Harmony dump site. We acknowledge the observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that this was a labor-based contract to be undertaken by the contractor. Action taken: currently, the project is at procurement stage, as earlier reported, Chair. Remedial measures: all projects will be procured going forward based on a full contract. Weaknesses in managing CDF and spent funds. Cause of the query: council acknowledges observation of the Auditor General and wish to report that 3,544,364 is on account of the following: projects delayed in the year 2021, which was an election year, and 90 days prior to holding general elections, councils got dissolved, as well as CDF committees. The council received the funds on 1st of October 2021, 5 weeks after the elections, and the CDF committee had not yet been constituted. The third reason was the delaying of approval of projects from the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. Action taken: 4,783,995 as at 31st December 2022 has been spent on Choma Central and Babala projects. As a remedial measure, Chair, we will continue giving advice on engineering estimates on projects to members of the CDF committees. Failure to implement approved projects. Cause of the query, Chair: we acknowledge the findings of the Auditor General and wish to report that the council was unable to implement the projects on account of insufficient funds allocation to construction of a maternity wing at Batoka Clinic and all the borehole projects. Action taken: the relevant stakeholders have been informed to make an application for additional funding to meet the bidding prices. On the unprocured tractor, I wish to report, Chair, that council has procured the tractor for Mbabala Chiefdom. As a remedial measure, we will continue advising on engineering estimates to relevant stakeholders in the CDF committee. Failure to claim an advance payment. We acknowledge the findings of the Auditor General and wish to report that we acknowledge the balance of 6,809, sorry. Action taken: the contractor paid 2,000 and the remaining balance of 4,000, legal department has written a demand notice to liquidate, to the contractor to liquidate the final balance. As a remedial measure, we have enhanced monitoring and supervision of projects. weaknesses in managing liabilities, failure to meet statutory obligations. We acknowledge the findings of the Auditor General on the outstanding balance of 22,494,348. Action taken, Chair. The liquidation plan for payment of debt structure is in place, and payment has been made to statutory organizations as and when funds are available. Council made a payment of 323 to Zambia Revenue Authority, 323,000 to Zambia Revenue Authority, and the minimum of 20,000 has been set in the 2023 payment plan. Council has also reconciled with NAPSA, and a payment plan has been made to liquidate the principal, and the minimum of 20,000 is allocated in this year's budget per month. Penalties are being handled through the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to reduce the outstanding bills. For LASIF and ZCTU, funds are being deducted at source, Chair, from the ministry. The NEMA bill was reconciled in 2022, and we paid the amount of 131,094. As a remedial measure, Council has put in place to liquidate all statutory obligations as and when funds are available. Failure to settle staff obligations, Chair. We acknowledge the findings of the Auditor General and wish to report that we have categorized the terminal benefits in two parts. Terminal benefits of 89,521 have been paid as at 30th September 2022. Settling in allowances have been paid in full, Chair, through the payroll. Council resolved that retirees on the payroll be paid 20,000 kwacha monthly through the payroll. Those retirees terminal benefits not on the payroll are allocated 100,000 kwacha to be paid on monthly basis, monthly rotary basis. You can add rotary basis based on a payment plan. Council has made a request to the Ministry of Local Government for grants in lieu of rates to liquidate terminal benefits. As a remedial measure, Council has put in place measures to liquidate staff obligations as and when funds are available. Chair, in conclusion, I wish to assure the committee that the remedial measures that have been submitted to the committee will be implemented and reviewed from time to time for further improvement. I submit, Chair.
Thank you very much, Town Clerk. I want to say the same conclusion was given to us last time Choma Municipal Council appeared, that will make sure that the remedial measures will be put in place. We received the same conclusion last time. Town Clerk, you are only 3 months at Choma Municipal Council. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair.
And the DF, you are how many months?
Chair, now it's making 10 months now.
10 months now. This report, to say the least, is not a good report. It will require us to have enough time to interact with you. So I'll ask you to give us 5 minutes. You can step out and we'll call you back.
catch the first 3 races of the 2023 Formula One season on Compact Plus.
My name is Achinga Muto. I was born in Kalabo, somewhere there in 1962. From that time, I've lived in Kalabo. I started my school, primary school, 1969. Then I proceeded to secondary school. My primary school was at Lyumba, now they call it Lyumba Day Secondary School, but we used to call it Lyumba Hill Mission School. So from there, I proceeded to Kalabo Secondary School for my secondary school, which those days it was Form 1 to Form 5. Then after Form 5, I went for National Service, and that was 1980, somewhere in November, December. From National Service, I proceeded to David Livingstone, where I did my primary school teaching. And I completed in 1985, and thereupon I started work. So I've been working as a teacher up to the time when I felt, I don't know what came into me, and I was bored with teaching. Somehow, I was to attempt this other field. So I resigned from teaching and joined this political world. My first contest, I lost because I contested. Then I came number 2 as an independent person, and that gave me an encouragement that, okay, then I can proceed. So 2011, that was my first win. I won through a party ticket of UPND. So I came here in 2011, 2016 again I won, and this one, 2021, is my 3rd one. So I've come to like the job. I've come to interact with a lot of people. I think for Kalabo Central, I've come to like it. I'm married and I have a family. Yes, so we are quite married people and we are elderly. We have even acquired grandchildren. Kalabo Central, me, I classify it as a remote constituency. Despite having the township part, but the rest of the constituency, to me, is rural and remote. Remote in the sense that previously you could not reach there by phone, radios could not reach, and forget of TV, you forget of the newspapers. All what you could see are just human to human interaction. So it's purely remote. We don't even have a road. There are no gravel roads. There are no feeder roads. Our roads, me, I classify them as earth roads. Why? It's because it's the vehicles which make those roads. So they are not roads as such. They are just passages where we are able to struggle. I'm using the word struggle. Western Province, and in Kalabo in particular, is a sandy place. Proper sand, like the sand that you find at the beach. That's the type of soil we have there. So these simple single-wheeled vehicles can't persist there. All you need are only 4-wheeled vehicles. That constituency, when I got in, we had a number of schools which had no permanent structures. So we had to struggle. Fortunate enough, when we got in, this was the time when there was also the CDF, though the amounts were those low levels, but we used the same low level amounts of CDF to bring up permanent structures in all the schools. Our primary schools have permanent classroom blocks. The only schools where you find there's none permanent structure are the upcoming ones, the one we refer to as community schools, because every day there are new schools coming up. So it's not easy that you cope up with the level at which the schools are coming up. But in short, we have tried to put up classroom blocks at all the schools that by that time I found, and we are trying to increase more of those structures. The water, we have a water problem in Kalabo. The supply, the water which people take, most of the villages, those are the shallow wells, where you share the water with frogs, because you can see the frogs, they are there, then you just push them, you get the water. But we are trying, there have been a number of donors trying to put up water facilities, the boreholes. So far, number is there, but you know, our settlement also, the way we settle there, we have no order. Anybody will settle wherever he or she feels like. So it has become a challenge that you install or you construct a borehole at every village. But we are trying to make sure that all those areas which seem to have a good number of villages, they are served with boreholes. We are also trying because of the enhanced CDF. For the first time this year, we are going to install boreholes, a number of them. We are also starting putting solar-powered water systems. So we want, by sometime in future, trying to forgetting about the boreholes, so that we now go full-time the solar. Now that, for example, the CDF has been increased to 28 for 2023, that gives us chance and space to plan for more solar-powered water recirculation. I would want to see that all the secondary schools must have a good water recirculation system, where the boys and girls don't carry, they don't push the hand pump to fetch the water. We also want to reduce the walking distance to clinics. We have few clinics in the constraints. So we are trying to reduce the distance so that when you are sick, you just go maybe a kilometer or two, you reach a health facility. No child should be found sitting on the floor while at school. And we are going to embark on that. We have local carpenters there. We have timber there, though not so much, because much of our timber also, we get it from Nalolo. But it's a nearby place. So we are going to embark on it, especially for 2023. We are going to make it a must that we procure a good number of desks, so that as years progress, we are able to reduce on the number of children who have no desks. So desks is one of our first priority in 2023 CDF. Then the other issue which we are finding it a challenge is this increased number of staff, the teachers, nurses in the clinics, because the number is almost overwhelming, because what we had was small. So we cannot cover up everything from the CDF. So I'm also putting a request to our businessmen. Those businessmen in Kalabo, this is the right time for them to get into the business of house construction, because already we have workers who are able to pay the rent. So there's no loss, there's no risk. Immediately you put up a structure, the teachers will be there to rent those houses. And there's also another concept of saying no, because it is in the village. The idea of the village has to phase out. Yes, it's a village, but there are going to be modern villages, because in those villages, the government is going to facilitate water recirculation. We are going to have, already we have some enhanced communication, phone networks, or what we don't have are roads. But for well-being of the people, those areas are going to change. So that concept of saying, it's in the village, I think it should die. Because when workers are there in the schools, those schools, are living within the villages. So those teachers will be paying rent, and the rent is going to help enhance the economic value of the villages. So I'm encouraging all the businessmen and women in Karabo to go into this section of house construction so that they provide accommodation to our teachers so that they work together hand in hand with the government. Then we also have the other challenge of low levels of economic activities of our people. I'm encouraging the people, men and women, especially the youths, men and female, the males and female youths,